Justin's latest claim? That there was an alleged confrontation between him and Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, where Ryan, quote, launched into a tirade and accused Justin of fat-shaming Blake in an encounter he calls traumatic.
I know this gets overused now, but she did FAFO. Like, she thought she could blame all of her negative press on him. He's a weakling. She's Blake Lively with Ryan Reynolds, her dragon. And she decided, I can't take 1 month worth of negative press, which she got, generated, she says, by him. He says, by you and your badness. And she's so thin-skinned, look what happens to you. Look what happened to poor Jay Cal even on this show. People get picked on when they're in the public eye.
Justin's latest claim that there was an alleged confrontation between him and Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, where Ryan, quote, launched into a tirade and accused Juice in a fat-shaming Blake in an encounter he calls traumatic.
The It Ends With Us legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni keeps on escalating. Blake's team is on the hunt for receipts and has filed a subpoena seeking every single one of Justin's phone calls, text messages, data logs, and real-time location information over the past 2.5 years. Her attorneys tell ET they will, quote, expose the people, tactics, and methods that have worked to destroy and bury her reputation.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Usually one side will ask for whatever they can, but there will be pushback. And those requests typically get limited or restricted in some way.
Justin's lawyer calls the move a, quote, massive fishing expedition. In the midst of this court battle, It Ends With Us author Colleen Hoover has quietly reactivated her Instagram account after 3 weeks, but she deleted all of her posts featuring Justin or Blake.
I take no credit for that.
Action!
And after Blake was accused of turning the cast against Justin, yet another newly resurfaced interview is coming back to haunt her.
Because she oversteps her boundaries a bit.
In a 2009 interview with Glamour, the Gossip Girl star says when Penn Badgley was cast as her love interest, quote, I was so upset that they hired him, I actually poisoned the whole cast against him.
Oh. Wow.
What?
Blake says it took around a week before she realized he wasn't a jerk. The two went on to date for around 3 years.
Don't be mad.
No, I'm not mad.
The It Ends With Us legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni keeps on escalating. Blake's team is on the hunt for receipts and has filed a subpoena seeking every single one of Justin's phone calls, text messages, data logs, and real-time location information. Over the past 2.5 years, her attorneys tell Ed they will, quote, expose the people, tactics, and methods that have worked to destroy and bury her reputation.
Okay, so we have some updates in the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case we want to talk about right now. First up, Blake Lively's team is indicating they are going on the offensive. And remember, she was the one who first started all this, right? So she filed her initial civil rights complaint with the California Civil Rights Department that matured into then a federal lawsuit. And she has sued Baldoni, his production company, Wayfair Studios, and other executives and team members, alleging that Baldoni, her co-star, director of the film It Ends With Us, sexually harassed her and created a hostile work environment on that set, and then proceeded to launch a smear campaign against her in the media and online to destroy her reputation. Now, he countersued, and he filed a suit against not only her, but her husband Ryan Reynolds as well, and argued that she destroyed his reputation, that she did that with false allegations that she weaponized against him, that she coordinated all this with the New York Times to publish these alleged false allegations in a piece about him, that she ultimately took control over all aspects of the film, boxed him out, and then he claims that he hired a crisis management team to not go on the offensive against Blake Lively to damage her reputation, but rather the defensive to prepare if she made claims against him. And by the way, he also sued the New York Times as well for defamation. So there is a lot going on here, a lot of what's been happening, but that is the basic gist. Now, Baldoni has spent a considerable amount of time and effort seemingly litigating this case in the public, right? His attorney, Brian Friedman, doing a number of interviews, allegedly releasing behind-the-scenes footage of a dancing scene in an effort to prove that Justin Baldoni, his client, wasn't acting inappropriately, launching a website that featured never-before-seen text messages between Baldoni and Lively and Baldoni and Ryan Reynolds. The website also featured a timeline of events according to Baldoni, a newly filed amended complaint. By the way, as you know, we have been trying to cover all all of the big updates in the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively story. This fight has been made quite public, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. It seems that this fight is equally as important for the public, the court of public opinion, as it is in a courtroom. Now, Blake Lively is fighting back. So according to Deadline, her legal team sent out a bunch of subpoenas to companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, AOL, Cloudflare Inc., as well as one of the people that she accused of being complicit in this alleged smear campaign against her, Jed Wallace, a crisis management specialist.
Justin's lawyer calls the move a, quote, massive fishing expedition in the midst of this court battle. It ends with us author Colleen Hoover has quietly reactivated her Instagram account after 3 weeks. But she deleted all of her posts featuring just Justin or Blake. I take no credit for that action. And after Blake was accused of turning the cast against Justin, yet another newly resurfaced interview is coming back to haunt her.
We got to spend a minute on Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, okay? I know the ruthless fellas have been all up in this business. And, I mean, no, but seriously, have you followed it at all?
A little bit. I mean,
Okay.
it's all over the tabloids, so you got to see it a little bit. I don't know if you're an
All
expert,
over the
but-
tabloids.
yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so for those of you, just a quick two-liner for those of you not following it. They started this movie, It Ends With Us, about domestic violence. It was his movie that he bought the rights for from the woman who wrote the book, Colleen Hoover. Then he managed to convince Blake Lively to star in it with him, and all hell broke loose. She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her, and he claims none of that is true. There was absolutely no harassment. Those are made-up claims. She wrested his movie away from him and decided to try to hurt him with petty, made-up, out-of-context complaints when he pushed back even in the mildest way, and that she and her husband are bullies. And now it's resulted in vicious cross litigations against both of them. The New York Times is being sued for defamation by Baldoni through his lawyer, Brian Friedman, who's also my attorney, who's been on the show. And it's as vicious as it can get in Hollywood. My own position is she's absolutely ruined her brand. She has started a fight she cannot win. She does appear like an Amber Heard to me. I have yet to see one of her complaints borne out. In fact, all of the ones I've seen have been undermined by his hardcore proof in text messaging and so on that puts a totally different light on her horrific allegations. Then you see what she actually said and wrote. It's very different. She called herself Khaleesi and said Ryan Reynolds and we believe Taylor Swift were her dragons. And she's got the best dragons because they'll fight on behalf of her friends too. Now she and Taylor are reportedly on the outs because Taylor Swift is like, bitch, I'm nobody's dragon. That's unconfirmed, but it's out there. And today we see some evidence now that Blake Lively may have a history of not being upfront when she gets cast in a movie of her secret desires to actually play a much bigger role than that of lead actress. Here she is at the 2022 Forbes Power Women's Summit.
I would show up on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do.
So she's a serial fraudster. That's called fraud. When you pretend you want to do the one thing and you'll do the thing they're hiring you for, but all along you have secret plans to do something very, very different that's above your pay grade. And she finally bumped into someone who was weak enough and not famous enough to stop her, right? This Justin Baldoni, most people had never even heard of him. He'd been in like one series. He certainly wasn't at Ryan Reynolds level fame, never mind Blake Lively. And she bullied him into giving her the movie where she did her own cut. They released the cut of the movie. He didn't even get to see it. He was the director of the film, the producer of the film, the guy who got the rights to the film, the one who's supposed to be in control. He didn't even get to see it. He was in the basement at his own movie premiere. And then she had the nerve, because she had 2 minutes of bad publicity when the film hit, to come out and try to blame it all on him. None of it was just due to the fact that she seems like a rather shitty person. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's wild. She just pretty much said the whole problem here. It's like, if you hire the plumber and he climbs out from under the sink and says, now let's talk about how you've decorated the place. It's like, what are you talking about, man? I gave you a job.
How dare they hire an actor to act, you know?
Right.
Deal with a little
and
bit
she tries
of
to make it sound like a female
ruthless
empowerment thing, like they just wanted me to be an actor. Well, yes. I mean, maybe someday you could be a producer or a screenwriter, but no one contracted with you to do that here. And that's another allegation, Holmes, is that she started to rewrite scenes that nobody had asked her to rewrite.
That's just wild to me. I mean, that is for the plumber thing is absolutely perfect. I mean, you hired somebody to do a job and they're like, well, hold on a second. I've got a different vision for your toilet.
Right.
I'd like to create a bidet.
Here's the other piece of it. One other piece of it. So she is accused of having turned the whole cast of It Ends With Us against Justin. By the time they premiered the movie, Ryan Reynolds had unfollowed him on Insta, so had Blake, so had the rest of the cast. Now you tell me, if you're an unknown actor in this film and you know that Blake and Ryan have turned on the no-name Justin Baldoni, who are you going to follow?
And after Blake was accused of turning the cast against Justin, yet another newly resurfaced interview is coming back to haunt her because she oversteps her boundaries a bit in a 2009 interview with Glamour. The Gossip Girl star says when Penn Badgley was cast as her love interest, quote, "I was so upset that they hired him. I actually poisoned the whole cast against him." Wow, what Blake says, it took around a week before she realized he wasn't a jerk. The two went on to date for around 3 years.
These are the handwritten notes about their big screen sex scenes that may have sparked the multi-million-dollar It Ends With Us battle. Justin Baldoni unleashing the never-before-seen image on his explosive new website. Inside, he claims Blake skipped out on a meeting with an intimacy coordinator before filming, telling him, "I feel good. I can meet her when we start. Thank you, though."
And then let's just do one almost like super close.
Yeah. Justin, who has also released behind-the-scenes footage from the movie, claims that Blake instead insisted that he meet to read her his notes from the coordinator at her New York penthouse home. Those included explicit conversations about their sex scenes, including references to foreplay.
It's a big problem. It's a really big problem.
Justin says those notes became the basis for her lawsuit, where she alleged inappropriate behavior. As for claims in Blake's lawsuit that he fat-shamed her after the birth of her fourth baby, Justin included this text message he says that he sent Blake. It tells her, "You will look amazing. Anything you are insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body." But Justin's lawsuit goes beyond sex, alleged lies, and video and audio tape.
I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That must have felt terrible. And I will for sure do better.
Money spent during filming is also now an issue.
Oh, here it goes.
Baldoni claims the wardrobe budget for the film ballooned by nearly $500,000, claiming she paid no heed to budget constraints.
You do so much storytelling through fashion, and tonight is no exception. Can I get a little story behind this?
Blake, who put on a one-woman fashion show as she promoted the movie around the globe.
This is Britney's Versace dress, 2002, the butterfly dress.
Had not addressed Justin's new claims by our deadline. The two sides are not only fighting their battle in court, but also the court of public opinion. The sequel to Blake's 2018 film, A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick, will not be shelved.
People do terrible things for their own reasons.
Instead, it's getting the featured spot opening next month's South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas. Justin is reportedly hosting two families who lost their homes in the wildfires at his $2.8 million Ojai, California home, while he and his family vacation in Hawaii. But his lawyer, Brian Friedman, told us Justin isn't done dropping new bombshells.
He's feeling like you would feel. If you were wrongfully accused of something, you'd feel pretty devastated. and he's looking for justice.
The sequel to Blake's 2018 film, A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick, will not be shelled people do terrible things for their own reasons. Instead, it's getting the featured spot, opening next month's South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas. Justin is reportedly hosting two families who lost their homes in the wildfires at his $2.8 million Ojai, California home, while he and his family vacation in Hawaii. But his lawyer, Brian Fredman, told us Justin isn't done dropping new bombshells.
Lively, he writes her, been deep into writing, really fun with you in mind. Fun, not right word, and he puts a emoji and then an exciting emoji face, and then Lively responded, you're safe here, with a smiling face emoji and prayer hands emoji. That is significant, in my opinion, her saying you're safe here, because he could make the argument that that signaled to him that he didn't have to worry about his choice of words, that he could speak freely. That's an important consideration as we move forward into claims that he crossed the line into sexual harassment on set. There was another text exchange between the two where, when talking about a scene, she writes Baldoni, quote, if you knew me in person longer, you'd have a sense of how flirty and yummy the ball busting would play. It's my love language. Spicy and playfully bold, never with teeth. So look, at the very least, he could make the argument that she was the one who had no issue talking provocatively and speaking like this, and she was the one who crossed the line. That's an argument he could potentially make. So let's go back to Ryan Reynolds. So Baldoni says that by February 17th, Lively was expressing concerns about her body and the sex scenes, and he's allegedly reassuring her not to worry about it, that they will figure this out creatively. So again, this is all at the very beginning. And then we get to February 28th, 2023. So Baldoni sends a long text message to actor Ryan Reynolds, again, Lively's husband. He is an A-list star. And it says in part, quote, hey Ryan, Justin Baldoni here, the guy who brought his, and I think it says internal baggage to his meeting with your wife. I asked Blake for your number well over a month ago and have wanted to text you for a while now. In the end, by harassing Blake Lively, the argument could be that this is already Reynolds allegedly putting the pressure on Baldoni to accept Lively's direction and suggestions. Just something to keep in mind. All right, let's move on. So Reynolds continues, and thank you for understanding what it means to me personally to have my family reunited as soon as possible. Nothing means more to her either, I can promise you. We're hardwired for keeping our family together. It's how to win us, and also how to kill us when we can't. We never split up, ever. It was a huge thing for us on this film. I tried to push our start date, but Marvel booked studios last July. This is in regards to his film, Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, which released last summer. He goes on to say, I've been frantically smashing out my third pass of the script to address structural changes, but mostly to get our budget down and shorten the shoot so I can fly back with the girls when school starts. We see and appreciate that you already moved significantly to make it work with her schedule because of the film she's already committed to, which thankfully she was able to gracefully, and I can't read that word.
And then he writes this. All this to say, I'd have your line producer face tattooed to my perineum if he, she, they can figure out how to start 2 weeks earlier. Now, I'm not going to tell you what a perineum is, but look it up and you'll see. Very Deadpool-esque kind of humor. And then Reynolds continues, completely understand how big of an ass that is, but the perineum is one of the most nervy parts of the human body to expose to trauma. So, looking forward to seeing you, and thank you again for all you're doing. I happen to adore you, Justin. XO.
By the way, that XO could actually be in reference to Gossip Girl, the end tagline at the end of each episode, which of course Lively starred in. But Baldoni ended up responding, this is the sweetest. Now, let's be clear about something. These messages were way before all the alleged drama, right? It's not like this came out in the middle of the conflict or the production, so it's not like they're saying, oh, you know, there were all these problems, but look what Ryan Reynolds is texting Justin Baldoni. No. This was before all of this. So why is it relevant?
One of the most heated points of contention, the rooftop scene, a pivotal moment in the film that has now become the centerpiece of their legal battle reports, suggests that Lively 37 pushed for script changes later, crediting her husband Ryan Reynolds for the rewrite. Baldoni 41 allegedly felt pressured to comply, not just because of Reynolds' involvement, but also due to Lively's close ties with Taylor Swift, one of the most influential figures in Hollywood.
I would have to compare it to the original one, but that's 90-something, 99%.
So who wrote the rooftop scene? Was it Blake Lively? Was it her husband, Ryan Reynolds? Or was it the person that was credited in the film, Christy Hall? Because remember how Blake Lively wrote a message to Justin Baldoni essentially asking like, hey, could I take a pass at writing the rooftop scene? Now, for those of you guys who didn't read the book or watch the movie, the rooftop scene is a very important scene because that is where Lily Bloom, the main character, meets her love interest, Ryo Kincaid. Let's briefly revisit these text messages. So this is Blake Lively messaging Justin Baldoni, and she's like, oh, you know, the cute scene is to me the most important scene in the movie, sets a tone, and needs me feel extra special. You okay if I play around with some of the dialogue to give her a little bit more agency and fun and send it to you? And Justin Baldoni writes, what? Fuck yes. Blake Lively, I can send you a pass to the roof or just read you when we get together next week. Let me know what you prefer. Now, if you guys remember in the Blake Lively complaint and then also Justin Baldoni's response and in timeline, this rooftop scene was a huge deal, furthermore, because it's what led to Justin Baldoni going over to Blake Lively's penthouse where he was greeted by Ryan Reynolds, and essentially it seems like he felt pressured by Blake Lively and her husband and her possible mega celebrity friend, maybe Taylor Swift, into pressuring him into letting Blake Lively's version of the rooftop scene ultimately be the one that is used in the movie. And then this leads to more text message with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, because Blake writes this whole sob story where she talks about how she's been overlooked by so many directors in the past and how she's had to like write stuff for the script and they wouldn't credit her, blah blah blah, and how she was hired as a yes man and just as someone who was an actress. This leads to Justin Baldoni writing this like, oh my god, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And not only that, but he gives her a voice memo, which I haven't listened to most of it yet. Maybe we'll listen to it together at the end of this video, but it led to 12-minute 2 a.m. voice memo from Justin Baldoni, and this whole rooftop thing was such a big deal. But the silly thing is, at the premiere about a year later, well, Blake Lively didn't even write the rooftop scene. She went and told a news reporter, hey, it was actually my husband that wrote it.
Ryan's here tonight. What is it like for the both of you to be promoting major motion pictures at the same time?
Oh my gosh, it's just so thrilling in our house right now. We help each other, we work together so much. So the iconic rooftop scene in this movie, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that, but you now. But he wrote it. He works on everything I do. I work on everything he does. So his wins, his celebrations are mine, and mine are his. I mean, he's all over this film.
However, at the same premiere, the screenwriter was there, and she talks about writing the rooftop scene.
Was there any scene in particular that was challenging to work through?
Yeah, as a writer, probably the most difficult scene for me to crack was the rooftop scene, because I have to say Colleen wrote it perfectly. And I wish I could have just lifted it from the pages and just put it in the film, but it's a little too long for film language. And so my first crack at it, it was like a 10-page scene, which is a little impossible. So the question became, what do we keep? What do we shave off? There's a lot of heavy lifting in that scene, and I'm so proud to the performers for really, there's just a lot of things that have to happen in that scene. He's kicking over a chair all the way to like them starting to get a little intimate. And if you really look at the emotional beats of the scene, it's incredible how many layers there are. So on the page, it took a long time to get right. And then I have to say, like, Justin and Blake just killed it.
The screenwriter was actually the first person that was hired to work on this project. This is an interview that she does where she mentions being hired by Justin Baldoni. So I had not read the book when I got approached to potentially vie for this job. Justin Baldoni acquired the rights to the book under the umbrella of his production company, Wayfair Studios. This was actually supposed to be more of a smaller indie movie that Wayfair was going to completely go independently. So Justin was aware of my work. I think he read a spec of mine, Daddy-O, the film that I just wrote and directed.
The comments are reference to the mention of Taylor Swift in Baldwin's lawsuit. The suit alleging the singer was at Lively and husband Ryan Reynolds' penthouse during a meeting over script differences. Afterwards, Baldoni claiming he felt obliged to text Lively to say he had liked her pages and had needed Reynolds and her mega celebrity friend to pressure him. A source close to the situation saying Swift wasn't there for the meeting, that she arrived as Baldoni was leaving and never saw any clips from the movie until after it came out, adding she is not relevant to the case. Meanwhile, a new lawsuit now filed in this ever-growing drama. This time, the crisis manager Lively claimed weaponized a digital army to destroy her reputation and Megyn Jed Wallace was street relations, saying she acted with actual malice because she was the one claiming to have been harassed and retaliated against. She knew and knows that they were not the harassers' retaliators, but made these allegations anyway, leaked them to the press, hoping they would be widely republished. Wallace's attorney telling ABC News in part, Wallace has not engaged in a smear campaign against her at any point in time. Lively's team responding in part, another day, another state, another 9-figure lawsuit seeking to sue Miss Lively into oblivion for speaking out against in retaliation. This is not just a publicity stunt. It is transparent retaliation in response to allegations contained within it and retaliation